Hi, I'm Carissa Hernandez, and I'd like to introduce you to our first ever Barrio Writers show. Barrio Writers is a nonprofit reading and writing program which started its first chapter in Santa Ana, California. Barrio Writers aims to empower teens through creative writing, cultural arts, and higher education. Today I have with me some of the authors from Barrio Writers who will be reading excerpts from their pieces and telling us what inspired them to write with us. Currently I have with me Joanna Ayala, Michelle Moreno, and Natalie Sanchez Valle. We'll first be meeting with Joanna, who is currently a columnist for XV Magazine, an artist, and she is also officially a published author. So Joanna, can you please take it away?
All right. I'll be sharing with you an excerpt of my essay titled The Day in the Life of. And I was having a hard time, coming up with something to write, but I was just, sitting one day and inspiration came, so I'll share with you right now. I was sitting at a coffee shop enjoying the exceptionally beautiful day when the pungent smell of tobacco infiltrated the air and circled my nostrils. I traced the scent back to a snooty voice that interrupted the silence and said, "Ugh, there's no originality left in the world. There's nothing that hasn't been done before. No one is original." He went on about his conversation, but my mind stayed stuck on a specific sentence. I turned to see where the comment came from and saw that the source was a clean-cut, urban-cultured kid sucking on a Marlboro, and looked like he spent way too much time behind a hair straightener. I scrunched my face and mumbled, "What the f***" to myself. I was utterly peeved. Did he not notice me or the other people sitting around him? Why was it necessary for him to speak with such authority? Now, either this kid was truly depressed or he was a pretentious prick in order to have made a statement like that. I really hoped he was a prick because he sure came off as one. First of all, the fact that he even said that didn't make him original either. Second, who was he to pollute our environment with more hazardous thoughts?
Oh, very nice.
Thank you.
It was like as if you could see what you were, how it went. You're very detailed.
Thank you.
And I'd like to ask you, since you're so detailed, you seem as though you'd be a very straightforward person. And I guess you could call that urban kid a inspiration for you. So
Right.
do you think that if you had talked to the kid and known him, that you would have made such, would you say it?
Like assumptions?
Yeah,
or...
assumptions and...
Maybe, but at that point I wasn't really wanting to get to know somebody that would, that just, condescend or just like have a snooty conversation like that. So I was like, I'm fine without having to talk to people like that.
He was just another person in the crowd.
Yeah, felt like that at least.
Person you could have passed any day. And also, your piece is an essay. So have you kept on writing essays, or have you experimented with other writing styles?
I joined the Barrio Writers program, coming out of high school, and I was just so used to writing essays all the time. And I kind of, looking back now, I kind of resent it a little because I wish I would have delved more into creative writing while I was still in high school. But since then I've tried my hand at prose, at poetry, so I felt like I've grown a lot more as a writer since the writing program.
So you can say it opened up your horizons.
Yeah, it definitely did. So I'm glad for that.
Thank you, Joanna. And now we have Michelle, and Michelle is currently a UCLA student, and she hopes to major in either political science or English. She'll be reading her piece in Spanish.
Thank you, Clarissa. My story is actually a short story in Spanish, and it's about a turtle and a dog who fall in love, but society's rules and expectations about who should fall in love with who don't allow their love to thrive. So the following is an excerpt from it. Jardín de dulce dolor. En un jardín muy lindo en California trabajaba un perro como jardinero. Era un perro tímido pero refinado, con pelo claros y ojos que, aunque muy divinos, sonreían tristemente. Sonreían de una manera que mostraba la profunda pena y tristeza en el alma del perro. A pesar de su aflicción, era un perro con mucho talento y una buena mano para sembrar. Para ganarse un poco más de dinero, el perro se hacía cargo de enseñarle a otros animales el arte de la jardinería. Un día se presentó en su jardín una tortuga con intenciones de hacerse jardinera. Al igual que el perro, ella también era muy hermosa y agraciada. Era verde, pequeña y con un carapacho suave y blandito, muy distinto a los carapachos firmes y duros de las tortugas típicas. Pero su físico era lo menos. La característica más linda de la tortuga era su dulzura y su corazón, que extendían desde la tierra del jardín hasta la cima del cielo. Pero al igual que el perro, ella también tenía un alma llena de tristeza. Inmediatamente el perro empezó a enseñarle los conceptos básicos de la jardinería. Lo primero que el perro notó no fue que era muy bella, sino que era una tortuga increíblemente inteligente y talentosa. Su gran rapidez en aprender intrigó bastante al perro y lo hizo querer saber más de ella.
Thank you, Michelle. You're a great Spanish reader. And I'd like to ask you, why did you choose animals to write about?
I wanted to write about animals to create sort of a fictional feel for my story, and I wanted to use them to convey a broader societal problem, being that we, being society, oftentimes create certain ideas about, for example, in my story, who can fall in love with who, and these ideas lead individuals to live their lives for the society and not for themselves. And so ultimately what I wanted to do is show that if animals can see beyond these stereotypes and misconceptions and perceptions on different types or groups of people, then why can't human beings?
That is true. Well, would you say that your story could also be like a children's story, since it does have a deeper meaning? Like, if, say, a parent was reading it to their child, do you think the parent would understand it more than the child?
I think it could be for both children and parents. I think if it's read as a child's story, the children can still pick up on some of these broader meanings, but for the parents, I can think they could really grasp the true meanings of them. So I think it could be for both.
Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
Now, Natalie is currently a senior at Early High School in Costa Mesa. She enjoys cultural arts and hopes that one day she can give back to her community. For us, she has a poem.
Yeah, thank you. My piece is called I'm Going to Change the World, and it's dedicated to my brother who is in Mexico. And it says, I'm going to change the world. If I am granted with one more breath, it will not be in vain. Many cloudy days ago, I found no meaning in life. But for some reason, I woke up every morning and I behaved like a human being should. The same routine, the same people, the same uneventful moments. That was not how I wanted to spend daylight, wishing for the hours to pass until I could hide under my sheets, be left alone with my misery, soak my pillows with tears of pity and self-destruction. My bones began to ache. I walked like a zombie, unaware of my surroundings. I no longer lived in reality. I was blinded by the stone-cold facts that melted in my brain. As I walked morbidly one day, clarity, invading my core being, a sign that could have been insignificant meant more than any treasure to me. The leaf, on the pale gray cement, held all my painstaking qualities, and for once I felt connected. I understood that I was not alone. I was found, the dry, brown leaf, sad and with no reason. That was me. I looked around. There they were. I was surrounded by them on that autumn morning, and although they too were abandoned souls on the ground, the pigment that reflected was different. Vibrant green, full of energy and wisdom, a hopeful color that I had never noticed. They too had gone through hardships, but they lived and loved and learned. Why couldn't I be just like them? Why must I look at the world with closed eyes when I have two? I've been squeezing my eyes shut for so long, as if I glued a bandage to cover the truth. As my eyes became uncovered, I knelt down to look at it closely. It was green, not dead. I turned it over. It was alive on both sides. I want to be a green leaf. Away from fear and pity and self-destruction. I am now aware of all my senses. I can now see, hear, touch, smell, taste. Some have yet to embrace these gifts. And so here I am, holding mine in front of you as proof. It can be done. Yes, I am going to change the world. You too, turn over a new leaf so we can change the world together.
Thank you. Why did you choose to dedicate your poem to your brother?
My brother is actually, his dreams to come to America and were kind of short because of a lot of issues that were arising. My grandparents back at home, they needed to be taken care of, and he tried getting enrolled in college, but it was too much money, and just a series of things that just held him back. And also because of the fact that he was an illegal immigrant. And throughout this piece, I think that emotion was still in me even after writing that piece, and it was a current event. And so I felt like it was sort of like a shout out to him, you know, to tell him how much I loved him, and yeah, just really to dedicate it to him.
What would be your first step into changing the world?
I think this is my first step. I've been asked that a few times, and I think it's always this, just the power of being here and being with you guys and knowing that our material is actually being read by people, and people are interested in our stories, and people are interested in what teens feel and our emotions and how that's all arising and how that can change the world and how that can make at least one person out there that's going to read this book kind of think about their judgment, you know, their first judgment about a teenager and how it's more than just what meets the surface.
You're right, everyone does need to have a different perspective on things. Please don't touch that remote, because we'll be back with a new batch of Barrio Writers up next.
It's a go. It's a go.
What the? Most parents would go to any length to protect their children from the dangers of underage drinking.
What the? Mom?
It's hard to believe, but 40% of teens say it's easy to get alcohol from someone else's parents. Never provide alcohol to a minor. Think through it. Don't do it.
Hi, I'm Carissa Hernandez, and I'd like to welcome you back to our first ever Barrio Writers show. With me, I have a new set of Barrio Writers, Evelyn Salazar, Eloheem, and Nancy Alcala. First off, we'll have Evelyn Salazar. Evelyn is a senior at Century High School in Santa Ana, California. She uses poetry as a way to overcome her hardships. She is also an aspiring photographer and artist. Welcome, Evelyn.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to be reading a poem that I wrote. It's called Un viaje hacia la realidad. Bajo el mundo infinito hay un dolor sin fin, un alma estrellada por la misma corrupción del mundo, su vida marchitándose por el uso de las drogas, y mientras el viento gira en la noche, este uso seguirá continuando. Y parte de mi alma muere con este silencio intolerable, viendo a mi propio hermano entrar en el mar de la mediocridad, esas hierbas devorando su esencia, ahora obsesionado. Y le suplico que se aparte de ese camino narcótico, pero el humo le ha blanqueado su propia mente y sonríe con ignorancia. Para él, su conciencia es la penetración de su locura, y lo veo desaparecer cada día más de la vida. Y todo comenzó como una mala tormenta, y este abuso era todo lo que anticipé, pero lo he perdido por miedo.
Wow. That was amazing. I admire you for, first off, saying your poem in Spanish, and second off, for being able to address something such as that. And I had a question for you. Why did you write it in Spanish?
I actually decided to write in Spanish because a fellow Barrio writer, Claudia Breña, she actually inspired me to write in Spanish because I would hear her just read her pieces, and I actually thought, wow, why can't I do that? Or why don't I do that? So it actually got me thinking, like, to try new things. So I actually wrote this poem because of her.
And for the viewers at home, can you please give them a brief description of what your poem is about?
It was just past experiences, and I just wrote about what it would be like to see a fellow family member, in this case my brother, what it would be like to see him as a drug addict, and I just wrote about what I would see and how I would feel about it.
Thank you. Next we have Eloheem. Eloheem is currently a University of California of Irvine student. He is majoring in sociology and political science, and he hopes to one day become a college professor. One of his goals was to become an author, and by joining Barrio Writers, he passed that. Welcome, Eloheem.
Thank you, Carissa. I'm going to be presenting a poem, and it's about the struggle of undocumented people here in the United States, and it's called A Letter to the President, I Still Have a Dream. I have a dream of being a good author. I still have a dream of one day being a good father, but can't help but feel useless, feel like the future for me is fruitless, living with this crisis, driving without a license, paranoid about the sirens with this type of life I live. I can erase a wife again, Mr. President. I'm a human being, not an alien or illegal. I want to be free to fly like a real eagle. I deserve the scholarship, I'm valedictorian. I want to be a teacher or probably a better historian, so I can write down and tell the border stories of so many winter crosses, symbolic of corpses that once had a dream, but the dreams ended right there. I'm sick of living in this nightmare because I live in fear. I shed a tear for those who came with the dream and children and buried both here. For those who bear the pain of having to work here. Listening to the children grow back home, to the promises of whisper on the phone and I heard through the ear. For those at immigration detention centers, fighting the case waiting indefinitely. Sometimes I feel that wait, the place is waiting for me. See my best friend in there makes me face the possibility. It's hard to keep my dream alive, but it is my responsibility to my mother's efforts and sacrifices, and to all those who pursue the dream but are not lifeless. This ain't the class of '09. This is the class of the iron will and the relentless. As I finish my sentence, this goes out to those who didn't make it, because obstacles were thrown at us as if the system was a machine gun loaded with them, and these obstacles pierce right through our spirit. I hope those in power hear it, because Mr. President, when I think of Dr. King, I picture him write you a letter saying I still have a dream. Because Mr. President, when I think of Dr. King, I picture him write you a letter saying I still have a dream. Thank you.
Wow. That was a very powerful piece. So you mentioned AB 540 student. So what is an AB 540 student?
An AB 540 student is a student that qualifies under Assembly Bill 540. And it just states that any out-of-state resident, it could be a U.S. citizen, or it could be a person who is potentially undocumented, can apply for this law and pay in-state tuition for their colleges, for universities, and for Cal States.
You also mentioned that it needs to get to the people in power. So what people in power do you feel that it should reach?
Well, when I wrote this, the title is Letter to the President. I hope one day maybe this makes it to the president, and also to the local politicians that can do something about the issues that the people are concerned about.
Next, we have Nancy Alcala. Nancy is a senior at Century High School, and she hopes that one day she can get a degree in theater lighting and studio sound. Welcome, Nancy.
Thank you, Clarissa. Well, I have an excerpt from one of the poems featured in the book. It is titled Soy de. Soy de niñez y canicas, de las Barbies que me llevaba mi papá cuando iba a México. Soy de Legos y caricaturas como Pokémon y aventuras en pañales. Soy de jugar Grand Theft Auto los fines de semana y Mario Kart los jueves. Soy de les hago más tortillas y ve córtame un chile del árbol. Soy del tío que dice vamos a amarrar cuando vamos a comer. El tío con quien mi familia vivió cuando pisamos pie en esta ciudad. Soy del papá que come con todo con un chile recién cortado. Soy de Santa Ana, de los bilingües del Spanglish. De Santana, donde nacen los poetas que derraman sus palabras tan bonitas igual que la lluvia en los trópicos. Soy de música, de las palabras escritas como fuego ardiente en las montañas. Soy de las cosas bonitas, soy del color y el arte y lo brillante. Soy del inmigrante, el que cruza por el sueño. Soy de háganse el dormido y no hagan ruido. Soy del miedo, aquel que tiene una cucaracha, con temor a ser aplastada, y a la misma vez con el orgullo de ser el inmigrante.
That was great. What inspired you to write that?
Well, just living in a world of different immigrants and different people from different parts of the world. I think every person that's come here in different situations, whether it's from China, whether it's from like Australia or Africa or just any part of the world, goes through a different perspective in what they see in their immigrant lives. So I just kind of wanted to address some of the things I see in my community of different immigrant families and different things I've even gone through.
Bringing everyone together.
Bringing everybody together, yes.
And also, you wrote it in Spanish because it was your native tongue?
Well, I wrote it in Spanish. When I joined Barrio Writers, I originally thought about writing an English piece, which was titled My Road. And after hearing a lot of other Barrio Writers writing their pieces in Spanish, like Evelyn and Claudia, it inspired me to just add a little bit of the language we speak as Mexicans or Latinos, and just letting people know that English isn't the only language we can speak.
Thank you, everyone. Those were amazing and very powerful pieces everyone brought today. In a few moments, we'll be back with the founding members of Barrio Writers. Don't go away.
I want to tell you about a time in American history so that it never repeats itself.
So it never repeats itself. It was a harrowing time.
A heart-wrenching time. I could hear my mother warn me, Seal, don't go out and play.
My family was ravaged.
Thousands and thousands died.
I was scared.
So scared. And then one day.
And then one day, there was hope.
Before vaccines, there were few ways to help protect against deadly illnesses. Diseases like measles,
meningitis,
diphtheria, Hib, whooping cough, or polio, which killed my grandma's youngest son. Without vaccines, these threats can reemerge. I'm here to tell my children to help protect their children. Get your kids vaccinated and keep them on schedule.
I never want my grandchildren to see what I saw.
Welcome back. With me are the founding members of Barrio Writers. The music you heard at the beginning of the show is music made by Bipolar Disorder. Bipolar Disorder has bandmates named Michael and Jermaine who are also Barrio Writers. So I had a question for them. Why are they called Bipolar Disorder?
The name? Well, because with our music and our lyrics, we detail all the emotion, all different kinds of emotions. We don't stick to one thing. We like to express and have people, find some kind of connection with music. So,
And we also mix in genres like metal and grunge and jazz and funk, and we mix them up or we diverse them in our own ways, and that's what pretty much makes up the band.
And if you'd like to know information on Barrio Writers and where to purchase a Barrio Writers book and information on upcoming events, you can visit us at www.barriowriters.org. I'm Carissa Hernandez, and we are
the Barrio Writers.
Sun rises high in the sky, your mind tries to identify what day of the month it is, but gets stuck in the clouds, begins thinking out loud about how to come around a life full of surprises. Tries to communicate through masks and disguises, to speak the mind or heart about how great or awful this life is, and recognizes happiness, bliss, expression, depression, relief, chaos, and crisis. We use literature to make a little picture appear big in the eyes of the young and the immature, the old who are still not sure, and how them who was captured the image in our lecture that we've carved into a sculpture.